Lesson 3 for our study of short story is going to take a look at character and dialogue. So, very closely related. And in short stories, there are usually only about 1 to 2 major characters. The reason being they are short stories and characters can become very complex, and we don't want to complicate things too much, so we're trying to stick to 1 to 2. The author may introduce the characters and some of their attributes. The main way for readers to learn about the characters is through making inferences based on the characters' actions and dialogue. So, unknown word there, maybe, wait, what? Taking a look at an inference. So basically, an inference is a conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning. So an example might be, there should be no inference drawn from the fact that he chooses not to be a witness. Still a little complicated for my liking, so a simple way of putting it is if you were to see an ambulance driving down the road with its lights on and its sirens blaring, what might you be able to guess about that situation? You might guess, or I hope you would guess, that you would say the ambulance is either going to the hospital because it has someone who is hurt or sick in it, or it is going to help someone who is hurt or sick. So I'm inferring that an ambulance with its lights and sirens on is going to help someone. I'm taking the clues that I have and I am making a conclusion based on them. Do I know 100% that this is true? No, but it's a pretty fair guess. So an inference is drawing a conclusion based on evidence and facts that you have. So when we're looking at this in short story, we're going to look at the way the characters act, so their actions, as well as the way they speak, so their dialogue, and how the author describes them. And that is going to give us clues to who these characters are. I want to take a quick look at some guidelines for writing dialogue, and we're going to do this as part of our in-class activity tomorrow, so make sure you take note of these things because this is what we're looking for. These aren't all of the rules for writing dialogue, but these are some of the major ones. So number 1, you want to begin a new paragraph whenever there is a new speaker. So an example from the story we'll be reading can be found here on page 138. And we're looking at this first arrow where we have Victoria, and then we introduce another character. Okay, so someone new is speaking. So we skip a line and go to the next arrow. Another thing you want to do is put quotation marks at the beginning and end of the actual words spoken. Okay, so we know that anything in quotation marks is exactly what the person is saying. Okay, so all dialogue should be in quotation marks. Next, what you want to do is use a comma to separate the speaker's tag. And the speaker's tag would be basically Mike answered, she said, all of that good stuff. So you want to use a comma to separate the speaker's tag from the quotation. So an example, we have when you write a letter, and then we have the extra information our teacher told us. Okay, so we're separating the tag, and then you continue again with your sentence and your quotation marks. If the spoken words are broken up by the speaker's tag, use 2 pairs of quotation marks, 1 pair around each part. Okay? So we're still looking at the same quote, and we want to continue the quotation marks like I mentioned before. You want to put the end punctuation, so periods, question marks, exclamation points, what have you, inside the last quotation mark. Okay, so you'll see that the punctuation is inside the quotation mark. Okay, this is something that a lot of people struggle with. So remember, inside the quotation mark. It is part of what the person is saying, so it needs to be inside the quotation. Quotation marks are not used when a person's words are not being quoted directly. So example that we have with it is John said that he liked the class. If we look in our story, writing to the president, we are going to see that it says, I tell her about President Mugabe. So she's not actually using a direct quote, so it's not in quotation marks. And I ask her what my father has to do. Okay, so we know that there's a dialogue going on, but as a reader, we're not getting the direct dialogue as it was said. All right, so in order to study characters and dialogue, we're going to read Writing to the President by Kathleen McCreary, and that's found on pages 134 to 151 of your Give Me Shelter book. In order to prepare yourself for our reading tomorrow and to get a better idea of the content and the context of our story, I'd like you to find one fact about President Mugabe. He's from Zimbabwe. I've included a couple informative videos following this one in our playlist, and as always, you can also check out the short story unit resource section of our class website. So good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.